There are 4 popular takes that people have when it comes to the meaning of life. But what if I told you that all of these takes are wrong? If that doesn't sound alright to you, then get ready, because that's actually what the case is today. So let's first understand the takes themselves. It starts with number 1, and then gets to the 4th as it gets closer and closer to being rational. The first take. So let's just do one of the worst things you could do to yourself as a living being: questioning your existence. You can clearly see something when you question your existence and try to trace as further back as you possibly can. Why am I alive? Because you were born. Why were you born? Because, well, your parents copulated and fertilization occurred. Why did they copulate? Because I guess hormonal impulses. Why hormonal impulses? Because I guess evolution. Why evolution? Because, well, there we have it. Life neither has any meaning nor does it have any purpose, because we all are gonna die and simply decompose. What's the point? There's no point in you getting happy about getting your dream job or buying the car you always wanted, because we all are gonna lose it after we die. Now don't come at me in the comments with Brian Johnson. He's not the rule, he's the exception of the rule. Now this apathetic and tasteless view of the world is held by nihilists. These people usually become miserable and waste their lives as a result of holding these kind of views. Remember what I told you? One of the worst things you could do to yourself as a living being. Now comes the second take. Just because life has no meaning, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're gonna have to live miserably. In fact, if there's no inherent meaning of life, then we should be able to craft our own. Because if there's no objective meaning and sole purpose of life, then why not just enjoy the experience of being alive by doing something that makes us feel fulfilled in a healthy and sustainable manner? Even though life has no meaning, to live and experience is at least better than to die and become non-existent. This worldview of thriving and trying to make the best out of our lives is held by existentialists. There are several philosophers that held this view. Nietzsche would be a great example. Third take. Now that you know the black and white, let's talk about gray. So there are nihilists who think life has no meaning, and existentialists who think even though there is no meaning of life, we can and should make our own subjective meaning of life. But then come these people who oppose both of these ideas, the absurdists. If you think life literally has no meaning at all, then what's the point of staying alive? The nihilistic worldview is so self-destructive, even though it's actually true. But does that mean we should be delusional and try to make a meaning out of something that doesn't have meaning in reality? That sounds irrational too, to the absurdists. To the absurdists, a search for meaning is in conflict with the meaningless reality. Hence, one should accept the meaninglessness of life while simultaneously rebelling against it, by affirming the struggle of life while enjoying whatever it provides you with. Now, if absurdism doesn't sound absurd enough to you, then consider the fourth take, the outer-spectrum approach. It's pointless to ask the question, what's the meaning of life? It's like asking, what's the apple of apple? Apple itself is the apple. Life itself is the meaning. Now, I have my own disagreements with this approach, because the ones saying this totally misunderstand the fact that the word meaning is a relative term. If I say X is the meaning, then this is actually not a complete sentence, because I now have to specify what is the thing that X is the meaning of, i.e., X is the meaning of what? Saying X is the meaning can only make sense if I complete the sentence as X is the meaning of Y. So if life itself is the meaning, then life is the meaning of what? Clearly this take has flaws too. But if all the popular takes are wrong, then what is even the right answer here? Or, at this point, is there even a right answer? Let's take the scenario. You want to go from point A to point B. Now the distance you would have to travel in order to reach point B from point A is the process. Now we don't ask what's the meaning of this process, because it really doesn't matter, nor does it make any sense to ask such a question. Life is the same way. It's the process. A process of going from does not exist before birth, when the sperm and egg that turn into you haven't yet fertilized, back to does not exist after death, when the brain gradually loses its neuron connections, with the assumption that there's natural death, and as a result, the consciousness deteriorates, along with the rest of your body. Now, yes, I do agree on the fact that we don't know what exactly is even nothing, which, by the way, if you think we do, then consider why we can't divide by 0. It's because we don't know the answer to any number divided by 0, which points back to the fact that we don't fully understand what's nothing, because that's all what 0 is, right? Now, I'm gonna go a little further than this and say not only do we not fully understand nothingness, but we also don't understand existence, which, by the way, is something that people assume we know because it seems so obvious. My hand exists, my head exists, I can see it. But no, that's the interpretation of our brain. That's what your retina is seeing it as and then projecting it to your brain. It's not necessarily that way in reality, especially considering the fact that different organisms have different sorts of visions and hence their perception is very different than, let's say, ours. So if that's really the case, then what exactly the world is? Because as it appears different to different beings, how does it really look? Or, if you think about it, does it even look a certain way? Is the look of something just the way we perceive it, not the way it actually is? Is anything even real? But if nothing is real, doesn't that mean nihilists were correct all along? One must imagine Sisyphus as happy, and so we did. But we all totally ignored the fact that if he really was content, we wouldn't be told to imagine his contentment. We'd be told he just is. We would know.